I read a few books over the course of a year, and this is the best book I've read in 2026, and I want to take a moment to tell you why, in the beautiful surrounds of one of my favourite places. This is a history of Winston Churchill, one of the great orators of history. But it's not a biography like so many other novels out there. It's a capture of a short slither of time in Churchill's life. He was in command of the ship for Great Britain when it was them versus the onslaught of the Nazis, when so many other European nations had given up the ghost on the fight. It was Churchill that led his people against the overwhelming odds of the advancing enemy. And that's what this story really delves into between 1940 and 1941. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. Like so many great speeches of history, it has that alliteration, that repetition that goes on throughout the speech. And interestingly in this book, it really plays out that good versus evil conversation right throughout the light and the dark. So you have that speech from Churchill, and then it gives a reflection on the opposing side from propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels, and what his private thoughts were in his own diary, and how that then led to the publicity that was released by the Nazis throughout Germany and Britain in response to that speech from Churchill. I can't imagine what it was for Churchill to be walking in amongst the ruins of London and other cities throughout England, to be in amongst the rubble and the powder and the dust and the blood and the guts and the smell and the stench and the moaning of death and destruction, and yet still show an optimistic outlook to the future. Something for all of us to remember in times of struggle. Everything's relative, and that, particularly to so many circumstances, really is a perspective setter. There's two salient learns from this book. One is the obvious power of word and the repetitious use of it to drive a message. But secondly, it's something that can be often overlooked, and that is just the power of being physically present and front line with those that matter. And that's something Churchill did during the bombing, during the immediate danger, and in the immediate aftermath. He gave as much of his time as possible to be in amongst the people at the front line where it mattered most, where the most heart-wrenching devastation was to be witnessed. That was something he prioritised his own time and that of his frontline ministers to witness. And that's something that we can all take a learning from. How do we get the communication through, and how do we be physically present for the moment when it matters?